Hello, it's Trent Clark, and welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, and my guest today is Don Williams. Don, how are you doing, sir?
I am wonderful, Trent. Thank you so much for having me. And how are you today, sir?
I am fabulous, and it's holiday season, man. I can't beat it, right? Like I love it. Yeah. I'm hardcore, by the way. Like I am like, hey, holiday season doesn't start till Thanksgiving around my house, right? So my youngest son, we have 5 children, right? My youngest son's like, let's play some Christmas music. I'm like, it's November 10th, man. Like Christmas music is not allowed in my house until Thanksgiving Day, right? Like that's it. Like then we can officially celebrate because we did this one year where we did that November 10 music, and by December 10, I'm like going, shut that Rudolph off. I can't take any more Christmas music, right? So,
Just can't say shut the Rudolph
I
off.
know.
That's just not right.
That's not right. I found
It's
myself
it's
being, you know what? I turned into a Scrooge. So I'm like, I gotta pace myself, right? I gotta pace myself. So I learned a little bit about me that year, and I just said, hey, there's a new policy around the Clark household.
that's
There's
good.
no music
And
until
so
we're ready.
not until Thanksgiving Day after the turkey's been demolished.
Boom. Let's go. Let's
And
talk
after the
about
Cowboys have won.
yeah. Again. Yeah.
Well, yeah, except we
Yeah,
didn't
and
do it. We
it's
didn't get it done.
it's totally just that, right? Like and my Lions have lost, so I appreciate you, jumping that into that nightmare for me. Thank you.
No
Um,
problem.
yeah.
I got the same nightmare, dude.
Yeah, like it's good because as the Lions, we always, it's a good Thanksgiving nap. If we could just get food and get that tryptophan nap in, like but none of us eat before noon, and that's the problem. We have to suffer it, and then our food doesn't taste as good because the Lions lost again.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So, but listen, it is so fabulous to have you here on the Winners Find a Way show. Let's talk a little bit about our show, Don, which is for you listeners, first time joiners, or you've come a million times. We're so thankful that you're always here with us. But have you ever faced stiff adversity? Felt like the losses are mounting? You need to find a better a better way. I think you came to the right place. Our podcast, our show. We focus on whether you're already an entrepreneur, athlete, business leader, or you're just looking to start your journey today to being elite. This is the perfect show for you. And I bring some of the top influencers, some of the top people in the world who absolutely have come before you, seen some tough things, have persevered, have overcome, and have helped others do it as well. So you're going to find this is going to be awesome with Don. Don, so thankful. First, before I introduce you, Don, tell my listeners, like the listeners today, like, why do you come on the show? You've got this fabulous amount of years of experience and all these things, as I'm gonna list off here in a moment. But why do you come and grace us with the knowledge, the experience? It's because it's so valuable.
So I'll give you two answers. I'll give you a short one and a medium one.
Okay.
The short reason is you asked me to.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer, and I promote to my own clients, oh my gosh, just ask for help. There are people out there that will say yes, and they'll
Yes.
do it with a service-minded heart. And you don't really need my help, but you asked. And so I'm happy to be here. And then the medium answer is love me a microphone, love me a stage.
Yeah.
And so it's good for my business. And my mission is helping others help others. And I pretty much do that through speaking. And so whether it's on stage or in a podcast or a webinar, love me a microphone.
Yeah. No, you're good at it too, Don. I've seen you before in action, and
Thank
it's
you.
influential. And one of the reasons we're here together, right, is that it's been influential. We also have a passion for baseball. I've been on your show before, The Proven Entrepreneur.
You have
Yeah.
killer episode. And
Yeah.
so, everybody go check that out. Check out Trent on the other side of the mic.
Yeah.
He's phenomenal. And the first time we met, what was, I think, on Zoom. I think somebody introduced us and somehow, and just naturally we were talking baseball.
Yeah.
And after a couple of minutes, Trent said, "Do you know my background?" And I was like, "Nope, I don't have a clue." And he was like, I have 3 World Series rings. And I was like, ah, come
Yeah.
on. But he does. Yeah,
Yeah.
he actually does. And
Yeah.
so, um, but finer gentleman you could not run across than Trent Clark. And so I'm happy to
Oh,
be
that's
here
awesome.
today.
Let's thank you, sir. Let's dive into a little bit of your background. Serial entrepreneur, 12 companies, and you're currently still the principal in 5 of those firms. I mean, you've worked diligently to help these business grow. Like you said, helping others help others, increase, multiply sales. Over the last 30 years, you've had the blessing and certainly the aptitude and experience that half of the Fortune 500 have called one of your firms and asked for your guidance, for your assistance, for your value. So listen, if I'm in the audience today, I'm like, oh my gosh, what a treat. Like, listen, the best and the biggest come to this man and his firm and his teams and his people to help out. And of course, you've also written 3 best-selling books, including
Thank you.
Romancing Your Customer, right? Which is,
Thank you.
and I want to get deep into that today because, for me, we don't sell hard. We sell trusted advisor, right? Like we are not hard sellers, but yet we do have to influence others. We do want people to come and work with us. And there's a lot of different ways and a lot of different approaches to sales. And we definitely want to talk about that. But the real magic, family, business, personal life doesn't start until you begin playing from your heart. Talk to me a little bit about that. Your position on that.
Okay, so and thank you so much. I'm a big believer that all things in life need balance. Okay, and business people, entrepreneurs, maybe more than most, are a little unbalanced, and so many times. Those people are really high IQ. Most of my clients, they're scientists, they're architects, they're engineers, they're IT people. They're brilliant, but and so their IQs are very high. Their EQs are maybe a quart low. Okay, and the reality is, no matter what we think, we act and decide and make decisions that will affect our progress from our heart. Now, they cannot be, if they're illogical, the brain will veto. No, you may not. Okay. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes the heart overrules the brain, even on illogical stuff. But if it is reasonably logical, the brain will rubber stamp what the heart wants. And I mean, we've all heard the saying, the heart wants what the heart wants. We don't even know why it wants it. We just know that it does. And so when people lead from the EQ side, not from the IQ side. And that doesn't mean that you want to leave your brain at the door. You're given a brain, you ought to use it, use it to the best of your ability. But where most people are a little short is in playing from their heart. And the real magic for me and yeah, I've been in business a long time, done a lot of stuff. Hey, it didn't all work. Okay. Some of it was real stinkers, but it didn't start to happen melodiously, magically until I started playing from my heart. And when a person begins playing from their heart, they'll notice things just start working easier, faster, better.
I think that's valuable advices. And it also really takes us into your 4th book upcoming. Well, no, actually, I don't know. This may have already been released. Gratitude, Stories from Our Hearts, a charitable venture for you for the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Talk to me more about that project.
So we're at the 1 yard line.
Okay.
There's 17 seconds to go and goal to go. 17 seconds and goal to go to make the release of the 4th book, Gratitude, Stories from Our Hearts. And I began my own personal gratitude journey about 5 years ago in Bangkok, Thailand, of all places.
Yeah.
Listening to a Canadian lady. And that motivated me. Most of my life, I had been a little bit like, not King Midas, but maybe Prince Midas. Most things I'd touched had done well. but I never was really grateful. I had this really bad habit of saying, oh yeah, we did that really good, but what about this over there? I mean,
Yeah.
not even a second of enjoyment and thankfulness. And so this book is I have 24 co-authors. It's a compilation of stories about the power of gratitude in people's lives. And our vision for the book is we'd like to influence 1 million people around the globe to begin the daily practice
Yes.
of intentional gratitude. And I'm Christian, and so it's scriptural in the Bible, and all things give thanks. But you would see it in Buddhism, Islam, etc. Gratitude is physiologically, actually, people who express or experience gratitude perform at their very highest level, and people who express or experience fear or shame at their very lowest. And so the more you practice gratitude, the more grateful you are. And it's easy to be grateful for the great big things, sometimes more challenging to be grateful for the little things. And then for most people, really challenging to be grateful for the hard and uncomfortable things. But with enough practice, you can be grateful about most everything. And it's a life changer. And so as I had the idea for this book, and I asked for help. I asked some people, hey, would you give me a story?
Yeah.
And people said yes. And then we decided that we do a lot of things for profit. And I'm a believer in profit. I'm a believer in capitalism. Like, profit is good, capitalism is good, entrepreneurship is good. But for this project, we've stipulated all profits to go to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And hopefully I think their budget is almost $3.5–4 million a day.
Wow.
And so, and have never charged a family to care for a child. And so, that's pretty high, lofty stuff. And if we can help, at all, we're happy to.
Yeah, that's no joke when you start talking about that, and the reality of a near $100 million annual budget to care for what we're called to do, right? Care for our youth, care for our elderly, right? And
Absolutely.
And they're doing it in a great way, great charity. I love that story. And I think, by the way, I spoke at Bangkok, Thailand for EO that year. I think I was there. So I missed the Canadian gratitude. So
I missed you, because
Yeah,
there's no way I would have not had that in my recollection.
right. So, all right, let's talk about Fort Worth guy, living the Dallas, which is probably your love for the Cowboys, right? And your love of your life, Lita. You've been married now a few years.
Yeah, more than a couple. So Lita is the love of my life, and 22 years, I think.
Wow.
Might
All
be.
right.
I'll say 23. To where
Yeah.
if I'm erring on the positive
High
side.
side. High
Yeah.
side. Good move. Good move.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not new.
Yeah. All right. I love this. So let's get into a couple questions. Let's talk a little bit about you come up, you've worked in all these high value environments. I mean, it's no joke. I mean, no one's it's rare air, Fortune 500. Tell me a little bit about, like, did you see this for yourself as a kid? Like, was there something on your way as a child that said, like, Don Williams is going to be working with the top business personnel in the world, and they're going to be listening to me because I'm going to have this great information for them. Did you see that when you were 10? What kind of got you on your way to what you wanted to do in this world, Don?
Okay. Well, the first question, the answer is no, no, and no.
Okay.
My first job, I drove a green John Deere tractor behind the combines at a wheat harvest on my grandfather's wheat farm,
Yep.
and I was 11.
I was just gonna say, like, that was not when you were 17. When you hear
No,
drive, I can already tell, like, when people start talking farming, you need a 16-year-old to have a driver's license. I can tell you right now, like in Texas, I knew this was gonna be young. That's awesome. 11 years old, you're out. I mean, and we know farmers work hard. There's
they
no days off when it's harvest season, right?
they do.
And it's a 7-day, it's sun up till sundown last time I checked. So tell me a little bit about what that was like as an 11-year-old kid.
Well, I learned two things that day, and I was born and raised in Kansas.
Okay.
So the wheat farm was straddled the Kansas and Oklahoma border,
Okay.
and so I tell people I drove the tractor, and they're like, "Oh, well, you couldn't do that today." And I'm like, "Oh no, you probably couldn't. You'd probably be in trouble today." But I drove the pickup 9 miles from the house to the farm to get to the tractor.
Yeah.
And that was just what you did,
Yeah.
And I learned two things that day. I've always loved being outdoors, loved all sports, love all outdoor activities. But I learned two things that day. I learned how to do hard work.
Yeah.
And I learned I didn't want to be a farmer. And so 5 minutes into my first day, I pull through a gate, and I cut it a little short, and the disc hits the gate post, and I'm unaware of it. And so I go through the gate, and I break about 50 cedar fence posts. And so
They domino
they
right off that corner post.
Boom, 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 boom. And so I spend my first day, that ends my tractor day.
Yeah.
And that begins my fence repair day.
Yeah.
And back then these were cedar fence posts. So they were cedar branches of a tree. Okay. Yay. So, and barbed wire stapled and, pulled taut and stapled. And so I spent that first day the first day and the second day, digging fence post holes by hand and setting new posts and restringing fence and tamping a tamp rod. These were good lessons for a young man. A tamp rod was an iron rod, a couple inches in diameter, maybe 5 feet long, that you would, when you set the post, you put some dirt in and you pick the rod up and you drop it, and you pick it up and you drop it, and you pick it up and you drop it, and it packs the soil around the post. They do things a lot more efficiently today. But you'll love it with your fitness and conditioning background, because this is like one of those wax on, wax off type things. And I can tell you, I've never touched a tamp rod since that day, and I hate a tamp rod. Pretty brutal stuff. But I believe hard work is a good thing. And so I had no idea that I was going to be involved in marketing and sales. And that I would have the clientele that I've been blessed to serve over the years. My first sales job, it took me about 8 or 9 months to become the top salesperson in the country out of 450 salespeople.
How long did it take?
About 9 months. I was 19.
Wow.
And then I was the top sales manager in the country out of 40 offices in about 9 months after that. And so had no idea that so romancing your customer was an idea that's been in my head for 40 years before I wrote the book. But you hear all the time, it's all about the customer. And some people actually mean it. Most don't. Okay. But some people actually do. And the people that do understand it's all about the customer all of the time. It's never about me.
Yeah.
And when your marketing and your sales process and your customer experience process and your team's experience, and even dealing with yourself, the hardest person to lead, the eternal struggle, is leading myself. It's not leading others. But when you see it from the other, when you're wearing the glasses where I always see it from the other person's point of view, selling gets easy, marketing gets easy, acquisition, retention, win back gets easy.
Mm.
And that's the basic premise of romancing your customer. In a good partnership, if we're in partnership, I should always be trying to see things from your point of view. And if you're always trying to see things from my point of view, we'll have a successful partnership.
Well, I love that. And a couple of things kind of come to mind on this, right? Is one that starting working young, I think, is probably the mark of most entrepreneurs that I know. Learning the value of a dollar. I think your Christian faith is something I want to talk a little bit about as I listened to the story about the fence line. I thought about the movie with James Garner, The Ultimate Gift, right? Where the guy's got to go work down on the farm. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but they got to do fence posts the first day, and he looks down, the line, and it's just miles, right? You're like, you're gonna do fence posts, and you're like, this isn't a day. Like, I mean, you're looking down like 5 miles, going, this is gonna be like a week, right? And so you realize the work ahead of you is not just a moment. And I had a very similar experience about working in a factory as a young man. Going, man, I worked hard and I learned what I didn't want to do, right, very quickly. And couldn't see myself the rest of my way on that. But let's talk about your faith a little bit for a second in that. When you talk about as sales, leaning into that other person's lens, realizing that it is all about the customer all the time. Part of that faith is it's not about me. It's always about others,
Sure.
and it doesn't serve me. And every time, and I've tried, like every time I've tried, like, what Trent needs? I'll get you what Trent needs right now. Like, it's never worked out great. I'll be honest, Don. Like, there's been glimpses of nice moments where I've really enjoyed it with guilt, shame,
Yeah.
bad consequence about Trent serving Trent has never played very long term. So talk to me about like that correlation. Did you grow up with that faith? Like, how did you weave that into your sales and direction and that kind of attitude of others?
So, great question. I was raised in a Christian household, but my parents were not Christians until I was about 5.
Okay.
And so my father was a United States Marine. My mother was a stay-at-home mother. My father is a United States Marine. There's never was a Marine.
Yeah, that's right. There's never
Marines
was
are
a
never
Marine.
past tense. Yeah. And they just celebrated their, 260th birthday a couple weeks ago. But I always grew up. I became a Christian very early. And I always, Zig used to say, my eternity is decided. And I've always had this lack of fear, believing that a lifetime is in the scope of it, in the scope of in eternity. If I can find the right word here, I was going to say infinity. In the scope of eternity, a lifetime is pretty short. And so I always had this confidence that eternity is taken care of. And so, one scriptural principle is a principle of stewardship, of doing the best you have with what you have. Okay. And so, I've always kind of done that. And there's a lot of things I'm not any good at. There's a lot of things I'm no good at. I just don't do them. Okay. But where I have skill, I try and do the best that I can. When I began selling, and all my life, people said, "Oh, Don, you're a great sales guy, great salesman, great sales manager, great CSO." I'm like, I don't know if that's true. I will say this: people love to buy from me, and I let them. But I think selling, I think the average person will sell a lot more if they'll quit trying to sell and they'll start try to help. Everybody wants help. Okay. I want help. You want help. Billy, Sally, Johnny, everybody wants help. Nobody really wants to be sold.
Yeah.
And that kind of just, their hackles go up when you even talk about it. So, I used to say, well, I'm very sincere, and sincere comes from two Greek words, sin, and Sarah. And it basically means without blemish. Okay. But today, I think a better word is authentic and vulnerable. The number one reason people buy stands on trust. And the number one deal killer is lack of trust.
Mm-hmm.
And a person who's brutally honest, people will know that, and they'll inherently have trust. And so to me, it's selling is hard if you do it the wrong way, but it's really easy if you do it the right way. People want to buy. And so you can't make people do things, but you can make it easy for people to do things. And that's really, our endeavor.
Love it. I love it. I love that. Stop trying to sell. Start trying to help. We have a saying in Leadershipity where stop talking about your problems. It inspires nobody. Like if I said, "Hey, Don, I have a major problem," you're like, "Yeah, Trent, I got him too." That doesn't inspire me. Like, but hey, I have a challenge, Don. Do you think you could help me with my challenge? Like, oh, a challenge. Come on, because you and I talk about challenges all the time, and I can see our body language. We raise up on that. We're like, "Oh, a challenge? What do they got for us?" Like Williams and Clark are on the job. Let's go, and we put us in, coach. We're gonna deal with some challenges, and that's what we want. And it's a minor paradigm shift, right? I'm not asking you to flip a switch on something against your values or your beliefs, but just stop trying to sell and start trying to help. And
I think you're so right. And that paradigm shift, words are so important. Use the right words in your self-talk. I think on a very strong foundation of gratitude, but then use the right words. What's the Bruce Lee quote? Never say anything bad about yourself, because your brain, even in jest, this is not anywhere close to the actual quote.
Yeah, good paraphrase.
Yeah, paraphrase heavily. But he said, never say anything bad about yourself, even in jest, because your brain doesn't know the difference. And so, the person who's having a challenge with their weight, who says everything I eat turns to fat and blah, blah, blah. Stop saying that. Okay. Use the right words in your self-talk, and you'll use the right words with others. And words are so powerful. Literally, the Army, I don't know, in the 50s, I think, they ran an experiment where they took a plant and they removed a stem and a leaf, and they put it on the other side of the room, and they would give an electrical stimulation to the leaf, and the plant would register the stimulation. And they've done the same thing with words. Okay. And there's a book, I think if I can think of the title, The Story of Water, but where microscopically they take pictures of the molecules of the water as you speak words. And when you speak positive words, you get these beautiful crystals, look like snowflakes.
Yeah.
And when you speak hateful words, you get these very disrupted crystals. And so even to the very essence of our human being, words are so important.
Wow. Yeah. And I've heard that with the plants before, right? Like I've heard that study, and it's so true. And one of the things I ask people that are really hard on themselves, right? Like, how would you feel about you as a good friend to my man, Don, if I told him what you just told yourself? Like, I'd be embarrassed. I'd be like, "You know what, Don? You're this, you're that, you're blah, 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 blah." I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I just said it out loud. That's awful. Like, that's not coaching. That's just harsh criticism." And I'm like, I mean, I know I said that to myself 10 seconds ago, but like, what? Wait a minute. You told yourself that? Like, you wouldn't tell Don that. Why would you ever tell yourself that? Like, and so I think there's value in like changing that perspective. And wow, it is. We talked a lot about on our show about what we tell ourselves is so crucial. Let's jump into the quote of the show. Chris McChesney, Sean Covey wrote The Four Disciplines of Execution. Love the book. And one of the quotes in that, winners, when shown data that they are losing, find a way to win. Now, you and I are baseball guys, man. Like we this is so clear to us. Like, you're down 3-1. It's the 7th inning. Like, guess what? The data is clear. You are not winning, right? And we know we need to make changes. We adapt. We do this. But I want to talk a little bit about your background that's allowed you to overcome some things, become one of the top 1% in business development and leaders and helping people sell. When you were up against it as a kid, tell us about a time you were losing, found a way back, when, something young in your career, somewhere along the way, that one of those big lessons that you were down but not out, and you made adjustments, learned the lesson, came out on the other side. Can you tell us a story about that?
Sure. So I've been the top salesperson in the country for a company. I have over 400 people, 450 people. They promote me to manager. Many times that's a bad idea, but they do, yes. and it works out. I become top manager, and the type of manager who produces the most dollars, the most numbers, but also who about every 6 months produces another manager.
Yeah.
Are you really a leader if you're not developing other leaders? And my argument is that you are not. You're not a good leader anyway. And so I'm young. I am young. No excuse, but my head is about this big.
Yeah.
And I do something, and the owner of the company comes to me and says, "Williams, you're fired."
Wow.
It's the right thing to do.
He did it. You agreed with, looking back, you agreed with that decision 100%.
I would do it today. Now, at the time, I'm unfairly prosecuted, and I'm the number one guy, and you know, I have all these thoughts, and so I got to go find a job. I'm 21 years old, and I go into the car business, which I admire anybody in the car business. It's not my cup of tea, but I'm in the car business. But I've always believed this, and this goes back to my Christian faith. Philippians 4:13 says, "I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me." And doesn't say most, doesn't say easy. I can do all things. And so I used to, it's been years since I've done this, but I had a little, a card, and I'll show you one of my WOW cards. We can talk about WOW in a minute if you want to, but I had a little card, and I printed that verse out and laminated it, and I put it in my pant pocket. And so I carried that with me all day, every day. And so every time I would put my hand in my pant pocket, I would hit that card, and it would, be a physical reminder of the thought. And so I'm thinking that thought many times a day. And I'm a big believer in that. The gratitude book got started because I went to Home Depot and bought this silver pail and carried it around with a card in it that said gratitude. And so I carried this for 6 months, rode in the car, rode in the truck, sat on the credenza, sat in the den when I watched a game.
Yeah.
It went everywhere with me. But it was a physical reminder of something I was trying to work on in my mind. And so I've always had that attitude that I'm not 6 feet tall, invisible, and bulletproof, but through Christ I can be. And so, and then my other, this quote I give from the stage more than any, and it's probably my favorite non-spiritual quote. And I'll paraphrase this one too, because I don't know it exactly. But I challenge everybody who listens to this podcast to go look yourself in the mirror and repeat words close to this. You are far better far smarter and far stronger than you think. You are far better, far smarter, and far stronger than you think. And that is taken from Winnie the Pooh.
Right?
And he's a smart bear. Actually, I think Christopher Robin said it in the
Right.
book, Winnie the Pooh. But humans we look in the mirror, we say things to ourselves we wouldn't say to others.
Mm-hmm.
We see things other people don't see. And when you look at all of emotion, okay, remember I'm a romancing guy, so I'm big on the emotion side. But when you look at all human emotions, about 60 or 70% of them are negative, and 30 or 40% are positive. And so by nature as a human, we see things negatively more than positively, just because out of every 10 emotions, 6 or 7 are negative. And so it takes a little effort, not a lot, but a little effort to focus on the positive. And the easiest way I know is to practice gratitude.
That's awesome. So you get fired. Things are down, and you spend a minute in the victimhood, right? Of like, oh yeah, I was number one. Why would they ever do this to me? How could they do it to me? This company will never go on without me. I know they've been around here 67 years, but now without, Trent Clark, how could it be possible, right? So this changes your perspective as you learn, hey, when Christ is with me and I'm with him, right? All things are possible, right? And this has now become a daily habit, which moves you into forever. I don't want to say forever, but hopefully forever forward, reducing the head swell, because you realize like, oh yeah, I didn't really do that on my own, because I did have some success, but I did it with the help of others, namely a big one, a big one other, right?
Sure.
Is that a little bit of the perspective change that happens along the way?
I think it's a lot the perspective change that happened along the way. And in addition to that, I have been blessed my entire career to have the ability to attract, recruit, and retain exceptional talent. And I'd rather have somebody with a little less talent and more heart, but I'd rather have somebody with a lot of talent and a lot of heart. Just saying. I'd rather have an A player.
You can have both. Why wouldn't you? Right?
You can have both.
You can have both.
I got a buddy, Rex Curzius, Asset Panda over in Dallas, like his third big company. But his theory is this: if you're CEO, your job is set the vision and go get the best people on the planet to make it happen. And today you literally can get the best people on the planet.
Yeah.
It's not the best people in your town. It's not the best people in the US. It is the best people on the planet. And, there's the pretty popular book. It's not the what, it's the who. And there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Now, I'd take heart over talent with no heart. But you can get both.
I think that's good. I mean, I think one of the things I'm a big grit formula proponent, right? Where effort counts twice. And I tell a lot of organizations, like, pro sports puts tons of effort, time, talent into getting the best talent and fail remarkably often, right? Like, they do not get it right, yet they spend hours and resources and assets doing it. And getting better at that skill becomes a huge proponent for organizations, right? Sometimes a difference maker in championships about being good at retaining, recruiting top talent. And then, of course, there's also developing them, then another number of issues. But I have teams come to me, Don, all the time and say, we don't have a very good team, Trent, and we want to have a good team, a great team. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Like, walk me through your process of gaining top talent. Like, well, we hire anybody with a pulse. I'm like, oh, like, how's it working out? Like, we're not doing any time into hiring great team members, but we're expecting to have a great team. Like, how do you think that's going to work? What's your thought on that?
Well, I think you see it in sports all the time. You see it in business all the time. Many times in business, a person's looking for the best. They're looking for the $100,000 salary person, not the 150. They're looking for the 50, not the 100. And I don't think that expense is always a good measurement for talent. But I will say this: there's excellence and there's cheap, and I don't think they're ever the same. And so you can get pretty good, you can get good, but you can't get excellent. Okay. And then we have a local oil company here in Fort Worth that they sold to Exxon probably 10 or 15 years ago now for, I don't know, 35 billion, something mammoth.
Yeah.
And one of the founders, Dr. Stefan Palco, now a professor at TCU, now giving back after, a lifetime of, not a lifetime of success, after a big exit, after a lifetime of work. And he shared this thought with me one day. I have to give him credit for it because I didn't come to it on my own, is that, Dawn, hire the best people you can. And I was like, so how do you know how do you pay them? How do you, if I'm literally going to go get the best guy, the best gal, the best talent in the world, how do I, it's going to cost big bucks. And how am I sure that I'm not overpaying? And his answer floored me. He was like, Don, you almost can't. If they are really that good, they'll demand that they provide you an ROI. And, it's true. So many times what works best is counterintuitive to what most people think, which is why it's not easy.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is why everybody doesn't do it, because everybody does the big blocking and tackling pretty good. Okay. The big differences in the little things. How do you do the little things, not the big things? Everybody opens up the doors every day at the same time and answers the phone. I say answers the phone. Shockingly, everybody doesn't answer the phone.
Right. They don't.
Or they answer it horribly. But I think locating, attracting, recruiting, retaining top talent is crucial. But I also say this: exceptional people require exceptional leadership. You put exceptional people into mediocre leadership, that will not work.
Love it. I love it. Okay, let's talk about, let me shift gears on this. What is your superpower? What is the one thing that separates Don Williams from, you and I both know there's all sorts of people selling, I'll help you get your sales to 100 million overnight. Hey, there's there's oil salesmen there, there's all sorts of stuff, right? But what is the one thing in this journey that you've come to recognize and understand about you that separates you and puts you in that top 3%?
I think, and I'm not sure I deserve any credit for this, Trent. I think I'd give credit to my parents, but I think it's in my DNA. And they had something to do with that, but they didn't have much to do with the actual DNA part.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that I have a very unique perspective. I see things in a different light than most people see them. And I'm able to articulate a vision in a way that people will jump on board. And literally most of my accomplishments, quote unquote, my accomplishments, they were due to the effort of many other people.
Love it. Okay. Let's go to quote. Your quote when you are down, when you are not feeling at your best, you're up against it and things are not clicking for you. Is there a is there a quote that kind of gives you foundation that you go back to and say, this is fundamental for me? Like, and as soon as I read it, it's back on the line of the fundamentals of where I need to go. Like, is there something for that in your life that you have a go to?
Well, I've given you two
Yeah.
that are probably my go-tos. One from a spiritual side, one from fine literature of Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, that's right.
And so the 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 thing I would share is this: at this point in my life, and I have been a daily practitioner of intentional gratitude for 5 years, and so I don't have too many bad days. I don't have too many bad, you know, we might lose one of my businesses might lose a client. We don't celebrate that. It's not like, yay,
Yeah.
we lost this revenue. But I know that it's going to be okay. And I think everybody has, when you face change in your business, family, or personal life, I want to encourage you to realize that you have a choice. You have a choice to expect the new chapter to be the better, to be better, to be the same, or to be worse. I just encourage you to choose better. And many times, just the act of saying, I don't know exactly how this is going to work out. For me, I have faith that it is, but I don't know exactly how it's going to work out. But I choose, however it works out, to be better.
Mm,
And just that simple act puts another ace in your hand.
love that. That is awesome. Okay. So for me, thinking about, we know a few weeks in advance when we're going to get together, right? And so, Don, knowing you a little bit, talking through a couple things, your background, I was thinking about, because you're very heart centered, and I think that's really important. I went for our verse of Proverbs 4:23, went right to the book. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And I thought, like that is something that became very evident to me 5 or 6 years ago. Um, as we talk about the words we use, right? Those words are coming from your heart. When you hear people that have a very nasty way of saying things and choose poor words, hurtful words to others, those are coming from a heart that is hurt, that is broken, that needs mend. And it's tough. It's tough to hear. I don't want to be that person who's spewing that for sure. But um, man, and I think as a parent, and there's so much information out there now, and easy access to what I would consider somewhat evil things, right? Things that are not in kids' best interest. And as parents, we have to guard our children's heart. Like, they are not yet experienced, and there are things lurking around them all the time. And that is setting on for a course of bad future for me. If we do not do that, I think one of the things that's so powerful as you talk about gratitude for me, and the next chapter, right? How we shift our paradigm is that when we look at our gratitude towards things, it is very difficult to feel badly about ourselves when we're helping others, when we're feeling counting our blessings. Um, it's just not natural to sink into the abyss of the victim, of woe is me, of the complaining, because we recognize there's so much more to it. So Don, I mean, listen, this has been such a great time for me. Let's talk a quick overview.
Okay.
Stop trying to sell, try to help. Exceptional people require exceptional leadership. The sin in the sewer, like sincere, right? The without blemish, right? To change to the vulnerability, the authenticity, being a trustful person. The lack of trust is the number one reason we don't buy from folks and want to do business with them. Watching our words, the power of words, the study of the plants, of water and how they react. And of course, the book, the story of words, right? Philippians 4:13, right? The mirror test, right?
Yeah.
And knowing that, hey, all strength. And then of course, you are better, far smarter, far stronger than you think. I think that is probably something sometimes if you're in a rut, wake up every morning and go to bed at night saying those two things in the mirror to yourself until you believe it, because you absolutely have what it takes. And I am fully committed and believe in that wholeheartedly. And the reason I believe that is because someone before you has come and done it. What one man can do, so can another, right? So you absolutely have it. And then of course the skill, your superpower, one of them, to retain and recruit, your DNA, the ability to articulate, create a vision, what separates you, and knowing your superpowers and how we lean into those to create value for others. I think you've done such a phenomenal job of that.
Thank you.
And then um, the talent, right, about excellence and cheap, and they're never the same, right? Like, and we
They're
have the
not.
director. So Dr. Palco, we can thank for him over at TCU. You're a TCU grad, aren't you?
I'm not. I'm not. But living in Fort Worth, this is frog territory,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and so he and Bob Simmons, and it's one of the entrepreneurial success stories from Fort Worth. They started the company, I don't know, 30 years ago, and never owned more than 7% of the company.
Wow.
And at the end, Dr. Palka owned 97 hundredths of a point.
Wow.
And that sounds
Wow.
really skinny until
Yeah.
you run the math on 35 billion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty big number.
It's a big number. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty big number.
He's going to be all right.
He's plenty good. Yeah. And
Listen, for everyone out there, thank you for joining us on the Winners Find a Way. Special thanks to Don Williams, our special guest today, host of the Proven Entrepreneur Show. You'll want to check out his podcast. He is fabulous. It is a great show. If you are in the game of business, you will not want to miss it. They are nuggets on every single show. Don brings absolutely super people, bringing their best, who have done it and come before and been through the challenges, and you will always glean tons of stuff from Don as your host. So it will be awesome. And I thank everyone out there today for joining us, but have a fabulous weekend, and we'll see you next time on the Winners Find a Way show.
Thank you, Trent.